In this video, we're going to work on example 11.19 from your book. If you'd like to follow along, open the Better Chapter 11 Classwork.xlsx workbook from My Courses and click on the Scenario Manager worksheet tab. In this example, we're going to use the Scenario Manager to store different scenarios. Now, as I explained to this in my in-class classes, several times I've been in a meeting where somebody will say, oh, change the cost of the car to $30,000. Oh, change the number of years to 8. Oh, change the down payment to $8,000. And then somebody will say, oh, go back to number 2. And you're like, do I even remember what number 2 is? What numbers were there? So Scenario Manager allows you to save your different scenarios so you can come back to them and you can display them. You can also create a neat report. Now, for Scenario Manager to work best, what we're going to do is we're going to name all of our numerical cells. There are many different reasons to name cells. They talk about this in chapter 11 right after example 11.12. But some of the reasons why you might name cells is to do natural language formulas. So for example, if this one was quantity and this one was price, I could name this one quantity and this one price, and then revenue I could just say multiply quantity times price instead of B2 times B3. Just makes it a little bit easier. Another reason, let's say I had a huge worksheet. I mean, it was really big. And there's an address area all the way on row 1000 in, cell column KL or something. I could name that range addresses. And we're going to learn about the name box right over here. The name box will list all of your named ranges. So if I just clicked on addresses, it would take me right to that range instead of having to search for it. Also, named ranges can help you with certain functions and formulas, as we're going to see. So for the first part, I'm just going to use the name box. And in the second part, we're going to use the name manager. So first, I'm going to name cell B2. The easiest way to do this is to use the name box, which is right above the column A column header. So it's up here in the left-hand corner. You can see name box. So if I click there, I can just do cost underscore of underscore car. You cannot use spaces in your cell names or range names. So I've just named that cost of car, and then I just hit enter to accept the name. Next, I'm going to click in cell B3, and I'm going to type down underscore pay, and I will hit enter. In cell B4, I will just name that one rate. So I'm going to click in the name box and just type rate and hit enter. And then B5, I'll just click in the name box and just type years. So as I promised before, when you click down, you can see all of your named ranges, and if you just click there in the name box, it will take you right to that named range. Now, let's use the name manager to name the cells down below B7, 8, and 9. So I'm going to click in cell B7. I'm going to click the Formulas tab. So notice I have an entire group over here for defined names. So I have a name manager, I have a defined name, I have use in formula, and I have create from selection. So first I'm just going to click in cell B7, and I'm just going to click define name, and notice it gave me amount underscore financed, and it refers to cell B7. If I had selected the entire range, it would have given that range all one name. I want to give each one of these cells a different name. So I'm going to click OK, and then I will click in cell B8 and I will do the same thing. I'll just click define name, and it just gave me monthly underscore payment. So much easier than clicking in the name box. And then I'm going to click in cell B9 and click define name, and it gave me total interest paid. That's acceptable. Of course, you could always edit it here, and I click OK. And in the name manager, you can see all of your different named ranges, and you can edit and you can delete any of the named ranges that you want. I'm just going to click close. Now we're going to go into the scenario manager. So I'm going to click data, what if analysis, and scenario manager. So right now the scenario manager says that there are no scenarios defined. Click to add scenarios. So I'm going to click add, and the first scenario name we're going to give, I gave you 3 scenarios, so we have the first one bottom of line, so I will call this scenario bottom of line. And now in the changing cells, I'm going to use all of our input cells. So in the changing cells, I'm going to backspace whatever was there, and I'm going to select the range B2 down to B5. And it's a good idea to make a comment as to what this scenario is about, and I'm going to click OK. So now notice this is why we put those named ranges in. Otherwise we would have seen B2, B3, B4, and B5. So this way it tells us what to put in for each cell. So for our bottom of line scenario, my cost of the car is going to be $12,000. I'm not going to use my commas. Now I can just use a tab to go from field to field. My down payment is $2,000. My rate is 6.8%. So I could type it in as 6.8% or 0.068. And my years are 4. And if you're all done, you can click OK. But if you want to add another scenario, we want to actually add 2 more scenarios. So I'm going to click add. Now we have our second scenario. Our second scenario is going to be mid-range. This one has the same changing cells, B2 to B5, but it doesn't have to be for the second scenario. And it's a good idea to put in a comment. And I'm going to click OK. For our second scenario, our cost is going to be $30,000. Use my tab key. Down payment is $6,000. Rate is 4.25%. This time I'll put in 0.0425. And years is 5. That's correct. So I don't have to change that. And we have one more scenario to put in. But I'm going to click OK because I can't see the bottom of my scenario. So I'm going to click close. And now I can see the bottom of my third scenario, my high-end scenario. So I'm going to go back into my what if analysis. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in my text box. I'm going to click out of my text box, what if analysis, and scenario manager. So I have my 2 scenarios in there. I'm going to add my last scenario. My last scenario is high-end. I'm going to accept the same changing cells and click OK. And this one is 85,000, 15,000, 2.9%, and 8 years. Now I'm all done, so I'm going to click OK. Now if somebody says go back to the second one, you can click mid-range and just click show. And there all the numbers have changed. And if somebody says go back to number 1, you can just click bottom of the line and click show, and there are the results for that one. And if somebody says let's see that third one again, just single click high end and just click the show button. But the really nice thing about this is we can click the summary button, and we can either do a scenario summary or a scenario pivot table report, and we can actually have more than one result cell. So I'm going to use both the monthly payment B8 and B9 as result cells, and I'm going to click OK. And look at the very nice report that Excel creates for you. And over here, this is why we named those ranges. Otherwise, we would have gotten B2, B3, B4, and B5 down here. But it tells us all the changing cells and all of the result cells. So we know which ones are the monthly payments, and which ones are the total interest paid, and which are different variables. And it shows all of the different scenarios and the results.